I'd like to start today with a pop quiz. Just one question, one multi-fold question, and it's a little bit of math. How many of you can confidently calculate the mean, the median, and the mode of a set of numbers and demonstrate an understanding of which of those three measures of central tendency sheds light on what kinds of questions? Can we see a show of hands? I'm gonna say maybe a quarter of the audience. Thank you, you can put your hands down. That is a 4th grade math proficiency standard in the state of Colorado. So bearing in mind the portion of this audience that assessed itself as proficient in 4th grade math based on today's test, I'd like to invite you all to join me in a rumination on school accountability. I've got 3 facts, a question, and a free verse poem. The young people you'll see in the photographs are my daughter, Sabine, and my son, Kofi. And I want to apologize in advance for the irregularities in my elocution. My voice ran away from home this week, and it is only now finding its way back. But in the meantime, I decided that it's actually a perfect symbol for the fact that I believe the American public has really lost its voice on this issue. And so I hope to be able to do a little bit to inspire us to take our voice back. Here we go.
Did you know that in 2001, the No Child Left Behind Act created the first nationwide annual standardized testing mandate and required public schools to ensure that by 2014, 100% of their students test proficient in reading and math? Did you know that by 2011, 48% of America's public schools were graded as failing? Did you know that thousands upon thousands of U.S. public schools have been shut down or have undergone mandatory restructuring for failing to demonstrate adequate progress toward 100% student proficiency? Accountability is a good idea, but with the stakes so high, doesn't it make you wonder what we should be measuring?
I'll give you something to measure. Before we raise another timber acre or spend another billion buying tests designed to reckon just how much is going on inside our children's heads, before we entomb one more embattled place of learning in the mountains of milled pulp and the requisite agglomerations of obsolescing new technology that yield each year's best ever measuring regimes, which must be safe kept like state secrets, irregularities of handling punished by the law, and which once used must promptly be disposed of, lest some rogue child or teacher should discover in advance, or even, God forbid, after the fact, what they must know or should have known by April of this school year. Before we hire another fancy firm to chart and print statistic summaries that make mendacious school report cards easy on the eye, before we close another public school, pink slip an entire staff of passionate professionals because some computer down in Austin, unassailable arbiter piously programmed to measure just what matters, cast its calculating eye across a stream of answer sheets bubbled in by breathing, blinking beings, and ran machine code protocols to render the state-certified report that little learning had occurred. before we consign our kids to status-seeking school boards that disingenuously pledge to groom their students all for high performance on tests contrived specifically to stratify them. Before we let this season's hot yardsticks sear their misguided assumptions into our culture and consciousness, before we dutifully dial up their heat with better standards, more tests, bigger budgets, higher stakes, greater stress, before we slake our thirst for palatable choices by swallowing unskeptically the celebrated stories of innovative, high-performing public poster schools that seem to promise cool relief, but ultimately mask the lukewarm truth that we can choose to conform in our neighborhood schools, we can choose to conform in magnet schools, we can choose to conform in pilot schools, in charter schools, before we stop believing that we do still have a potent choice to make. We, the people, we, the public, we are children's village. We can choose to demand a different reckoning. For as we direct our attention, so we direct our influence. And as we design our measuring sticks, so also do we define our aspirations. What, in the name of school, do we want for our children? And what, in the name of humanity's future, do we want our schools held to account for? We crave concrete assurance that our children's precious gifts and our community's precious resources will not be squandered. We nurse a tenacious fear that in failing to administer our most up-to-date wisdom to each and every one by the measured spoonful, we risk letting an entire generation of children tumble inept and unprepared into the gaping maw of a pernicious future. But spirits in fear are unfit to administer the tonics of human possibility. We have lost the ancient understanding that to educate the human potential is a necessarily, if nerve-wrackingly, open-ended endeavor, ruminating ever and only upon yesterday's bullet points, earnestly served up in standard issue scope, pace, and sequence. What hungry intellect will be empowered to step out onto a road not taken? Which of our homogenized offspring will have the courage or the wherewithal to light a bulb that yesterday never dreamed of tomorrow? What naive absurdity, lodged in the crinkles of the human cerebrum, allows us as a society to dignify the delusion that we can intelligently program and standardize our species toward a more salutary future, despite 3.5 billion years of geological accretions testifying that the succession of life beneath the wheeling constellations has ever favored diversity and adaptability. What credulous optimism moves us to acquiesce to marching our children in lockstep down a pedagogical trail of tears when we are charged by the creator of evolution with nothing more than ensuring their individual evolutionary fitness, with helping them cultivate their unique capacities, defy their hindrances, and summon their singular resourcefulness as they step out to change the world, one idiosyncratic being at a time. Who would castigate the mother that found herself unable to teach every one of her children to tie shoes without help by the age of 4? And exactly what kind of world do we look forward to living in once we have finally pilloried every last school that fails to teach every last child how to calculate the measures of central tendency of a fictional data set before April of 4th grade? Our duty as a community raising children to lead the way one day is not to satiate them with meticulously pre-digested, blue ribbon panel suggested, focus group tested achievement outcomes authoritatively quantified for our bureaucratic convenience and smartly packaged for our false confidence. Our duty is to stoke the flickering belly fires of our children's life-affirming appetites, of their hunger to know, their urge to make sense, their itch to explore, their wish to improve, their need to speak out, their desire to serve, their longing to count, their yearning to conquer the peak, slay the dragon, revive the art, discover the cure, invent the solution, their innate compulsion to actuate the forces that rise up within them. Measure that, I say.